Okay, sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. So, of course, my computer picks the perfect time to disconnect from the internet. So, anyway, all right, we're back at it. Okay, and I apologize. I'm a bit of a mess this morning. It's been all the things. Okay, so let's talk about just a couple of things super quick, and then we'll get into it. So you should have seen everything go live this morning as far as the World War I stuff goes. We're going to talk very briefly about your bell ringer question, especially if you haven't answered it, and help you out as far as that goes. But your IDs for World War I are up. Your unit packet is up. I told you yesterday, I kind of warned you in advance that there is a World War I project. And if you have any questions about that, we'll talk about that very briefly too. The biggest chunk of today is going to be us getting into the new info. Depending on how long it takes me to get through everything, I don't know that we'll get through all of section 1 stuff, because I do want to talk about a little bit of information that's in your Google Slides, because there is a lot that goes into World War One. Again, we're trying to cover a whole entire world war that's going to last 5 years. We're trying to squeeze it and condense it down into a little bit over a week, I guess, depending on how long it actually takes us. I had predicted that we would get through it by next week. By Thursday is what I'm thinking, but it just depends. So anyway, the only other thing that I want to say before we jump into it for today, and be able to access that World War I stuff, your IDs, and your packet, depending on how much time we have. But you need to remember, if you did not take the test yesterday, it went live yesterday, but today is the day that it is actually due. I would recommend going and watching the recording from yesterday, yesterday's review, to make sure that you're ready for it, and then knocking out that unit test today. So don't forget about that. And then you should have also seen I posted an extra credit opportunity. And I don't that's not something that I usually do, offering extra credit, especially to honors. But the reason why I did it, and I haven't decided as to how many opportunities I'm actually going to throw out there. I don't know. It's going to be anywhere between 2 and 3, which is, that's a lot better than what I usually do, because usually it's nothing. So, because I know second and third 6 weeks are going to have a lot of major grades on them, we already said the other day that midterm is a major grade that'll be on second 6 weeks report card. So that's a little hint that there's other stuff coming that are major grades that will be on second and third 6 weeks. So with that in mind, I thought I would be nice. And because we're not in class under normal circumstances, I'm cutting out a lot of the stuff that I would normally do of watching video clips and occasionally whole movies. Occasionally. There's a few that I pick because they're my favorites to actually watch in their entirety. Obviously, that is not an option if we still have to push to get through all the information. So for that reason, I did put in that first extra credit opportunity. The second one will come once we get into the Great Depression. It will be something different. It's not going to be another movie opportunity. But there's so many great movies that go with the time period that we're either in or about to be in. And so that's why I listed the movies that I did. You have until the end of February, because like I said, once we get into the Great Depression is actually when your second opportunity will come up. And I'm thinking that I'm not going to give you any more than 3. And it will give you 10 extra credit points on your lowest test, quiz, or project grade. So again, keep in mind, midterm is coming up. Spoiler alert, there's a major project, and I'm not I'm not considering the World War I project to be a major project. So hint about what else is coming. So anyway, it's something to consider. You will have, like I said, I'm going to post 3 opportunities that will be available for you to use. you know, if you just massively fail on something, theoretically, you could save up all 3 opportunities and chunk that 30 points onto one thing. And, you know, if something happens, your grade slips and you end up having to take my final exam, which I hope none of you do, I think it's fun. I think it's just a lot of historical trivia that you get to do for 100 questions plus, you know, that's just part 1. Part 1 is the multiple choice, 100 questions, and then there's a part 2 and 3. But anyway, we won't get into that right now, okay? But just, I was going to throw that out there. You have until the end of February if you're interested in that opportunity. Okay. All right. Without further ado, let's get into it. Here is your question for your bell ringer. Why did progressive reforms get put on hold after the 1916 election? Well, you should have known based on what our topic is today. It's because we get into World War I. We're watching what's happening over in Europe. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail here in just a minute. And we realize that our efforts and our intentions and our focus needs to be on the world war versus worrying about what's happening here at home. So everything here at home kind of gets put on pause almost. So anyway, all right, we're going to dive straight into it. I am going to share my screen because there's a couple of things that I want to talk about that are in your Google Notes. Please, I strongly encourage you guys to go and look at those Google Notes because they're going to go more in detail than what I have time for when I squeeze it into our meetings. And if you have your IDs and SQs out, the information I'm about to give you is actually going to be in section 1 stuff. All right, so I'm going to share my screen so that you can kind of walk through it with me. Again, make sure that you have out your IDs and SQs. We're in section 1. We are introing into World War I officially. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through some of the big things. I'm not going to take but a few minutes to do this, and the information that we're going over is all going to be in that section 1 of your IDs and SQs. I don't know that we'll have time to talk about the IDs and do those definitions together. That might be something that you have to go back and do on your own. Again, just because I'm trying to limit our time in Zooms. Alrighty, so this is a good picture, a good breakdown of what World War I looks like as far as who is on whose side. We eventually are going to side with the Allies. The United States does not get involved in the very beginning. We isolate ourselves. We've got the benefit of being a whole ocean apart. We are not connected to Europe. And World War I is very much a family feud. We don't have a family member that is directly involved because over in Europe, they still have a monarchy. You see that as, you know, the causes of the war. It talks about having old empires and how a majority of Europe is still being ruled by monarchies, kings and queens. And if you know anything about, history with monarchs, they keep it in the family, so to speak, that it's princesses and princes only marry other prince and princesses, and kings and queens only marry other kings and queens. And so everybody is related in some way, shape, or form. I'll give you an example. The king of Great Britain is brother-in-law to the king in Russia, Tsar Nicholas. So Tsar Nicholas and King George are brother and brother-in-law. So that's just an example, all right? Because again, they're all related in some way, shape, or form: aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, in-laws, all the things. So because of that, everybody has secret alliances. They have family members that they like more than others, that they have promises that if something goes down, I've got your back, okay? So let's go ahead and look at those questions, because number 1 wants to know, name the 2 alliances in Europe at the start of World War I and list the members of each alliance. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my next screen because I think I've got it listed out on the next screen. Yeah, okay. And you need to make sure that you know these alliances by both names. For example, The Triple Alliance is also known as the Central Powers. That is what you will hear me call it more often, is the Central Powers, even though, hint, hint, I believe there might be a quiz question that refers to them as the Triple Alliance. But here's what you need to know for number one. All right, make sure that you list it out. So you don't have to write in complete sentences. You're going to list out Central Powers, and you're going to put Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Okay, those three. They're the ones that are in blue on the map. So if you notice, we're talking about pros and cons. The pro is that all three of those are close neighbors, and they are going to be able to easily move men and supplies amongst themselves. But that, the con is that they're also surrounded by the Allies. So the other group is the Allies, also known as the Triple Entente, even though, again, you're going to hear me call them the Allies most of the time. That includes France, Great Britain, Russia, and eventually the United States. Okay, and we'll talk about our official entry once we get to that. But if you notice on the map, there are countries that are staying out of this, that are staying neutral. All right, question 2 says, what incident triggers the beginning of World War I? All right, so World War I is usually the war that most people are a little sketchy on the details as to how it gets started and the why. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to that. All right, so here's what happens. So I told you already that it's kings and queens, and it's monarchies that are ruling everything. Okay. Well, what happens is that there is a member of the royal family, all right, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who is heir to the throne of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So while he is out, and you see that in the picture that's on the screen, he is out in, I guess you could call it a parade. You see him with his wife. While he is out, he ends up being shot and killed by a Serbian rebel. Now, here's some more details to start connecting the dots as to how this all gets down. So make sure you got your answer. All right, for number 2, you're going to put the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Okay. Now, you do need to know the details that he's heir to the throne of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. I know that's a mouthful. But Serbia, and I'm going to back up for just a second, Serbia is under the protection of Russia. Okay. So again, this is kind of as you're piecing the puzzle together as to who is backing who, and you see them on the map that they are allies. Now, Serbia will be taken over and surrounded by the Central Powers. So all that's white in between will eventually be blue. But Russia jumps in to back Serbia. So it's a domino effect. All right. Austria-Hungary and Germany are allies. They band together. They declare a war on Serbia. Russia declares war on Germany and Austria-Hungary. So again, everybody kind of starts diving in once the assassination happens. Okay. So again, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. All right, question 3 says, why did many Americans support the British in the war, even though the U.S. was officially neutral? Now, I would hope this would be an easy question, but just in case it's not, Great Britain has always been our mother country. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that we fought each other during the War for Independence and the War of 1812. I get that. But for the most part, they are our mother country. We are always going to be allies, on good days anyway, and support our mother country. So that is going to be who we back and who we're going to side with, as well as Russia and France have always been friends. I mean, think about France helping us during the American Revolution, especially. So again, we're going to side with the British. That's our mother country. That's where, a lot of our descendants are from, a large majority of the old immigration descendants. And number 4, how did Germany's use of unrestricted submarine warfare bring the U.S. into the war? Again, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. I'll talk more about the stuff I'm skipping over tomorrow. But here's what goes down. I'll talk about technology more tomorrow. What happens is the Lusitania, who is actually the sister ship of the Titanic goes down in 1912. The Lusitania will go down and suffer the same fate in 1915, but the Lusitania gets sunk by a German U-boat or a German submarine. And it's all because of the Sussex Pledge. So your answer for number 4 is the Sussex Pledge. And you don't have to go in detail as to what that means, but the Germans had said that they will issue a warning to any ship that is out in the Atlantic, English Channel area. And once they issue the warning and you still continue to be at sea and you refuse to turn around and go back to port, they will fire. And so they issued a warning to the Lusitania. You need to turn around, go back to port. The Lusitania says, we are a civilian cruise ship. We have civilians on board. We are not a warship. We are not carrying war supplies, which was not really the truth. They did have some war supplies and cargo. But they claimed they were strictly a civilian cruise ship. Okay. They continued on, and the Germans fired torpedoes and sunk the Lusitania. And of course, all that we need to declare war are good reasons, and just cause would definitely be American lives being lost. And we did have Americans on board the Lusitania. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. I will continue with more information tomorrow. All right. Does anybody have any questions on 1 through 4? You're just going to have to fill in the IDs. If we have time to talk about those IDs, we will tomorrow. But again, we had to start a few minutes late, and I'm trying to squeeze in a lot of information. And I'm going to jump to your packet very quickly. We're going to squeeze in a few more minutes before we hit the pause button, because I know you've got other stuff to do. In your unit packets, we're actually going to skip down the first couple of pages. If we have time, we'll do those together next week. We definitely will not have time for that today and tomorrow. You're going to jump down to 16-1, guided reading 16-1. Same thing. We're going to jump around to the answers on this, and then we're going to call it a day. All right. Let's see. Let's start with question 2 on your packet, 16-1, question 2. Why did the alliance between Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary alarm Russian leaders? Because they're next door neighbors to Russia. Just put because they're next door neighbors. They're right next door. They are going to block Russia from Russia's other allies. The con that we talked about is the fact that the Central Powers are all landlocked. They're all right there in the middle. But the bad thing for Russia is that they're going to be divided from France and Great Britain and eventually the United States. So they're blocked from the Allies. They're next door neighbors to the Central Powers. Let's see. Let's jump to number 4. Just skip 3, go to 4. 4, what is the main idea behind self-determination? The idea that you should be able to create your own country. That is going to be one of the biggest causes for the war, is that there's a lot of nationalities that are in these big empires, and a lot of them want to become their own country and get away from these monarchies. So that self-determination is the idea that you should be able to fight for your the creation of your own country, of your own nationality. Let's see. Let's skip again. Skip 5, go to 6. Why did Russia support the Serbian nationalist group that assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand? they share the same culture, traditions, beliefs, business. Just write a couple, all right? There's a lot of things, right? But they share the same cultures, beliefs, traditions, trade, a lot of stuff. That's, there's a lot of reasons actually. All right, let's keep it rolling. 7, we already answered, but we're going to do it again. It is a repeat question, but you got to know this stuff. Number 7, what were the initial countries involved in World War I? List out all 6. All right. Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, Russia, Great Britain, and France. Okay. Technically, there's more than that big 6. And again, the U.S. will get into it later. All right. The U.S. will not enter into the war until 1917, even though we do start preparing before that. Let's see. Where do I want to go to next? Number 8, what was the major problem with Germany's invasion route into France? They had to go through neutral areas, which is going to cause other countries to want to be involved. So write that down. I don't know that you would, forced to go through neutral countries. Belgium, Netherlands. All right. Number 9, I guess we'll go ahead and answer really quick. Number 9, why did many Irish Americans sympathize with Germany and the Central Powers? Just ancestral reasons. Had ancestors, relatives, similar interest. All right. All right, number 10, how did Great Britain and Germany try to win American support? Both claimed they had the better technology or weapons. Both claimed they had better weapons, maybe, and it's no secret. You want to be on the winning side, right? You want to be on who you think is going to be the victor in things. And they both advertised that they had better weaponry technology than the other did. Okay. All right. Let's see. Last few questions. Skip 11. We'll talk about that later. Skip 11. Go to 12. How did Germany respond to Britain's blockade? Created the Sussex Pledge. Use submarines. They're finding a way around it. All right, let's see if I want to do any of the rest. Okay, all right, we're going to go ahead and skip 13, go to 14. What did Germany promise to Mexico in return for Mexico's support in the war? And that was the last thing on that slide that I didn't get to quite yet, and I'm trying to hurry. It's land. All right, the Zimmerman telegram is the thing that I skipped over just for time purposes. Germany has a telegram they send to Mexico, and they tell Mexico if they will pick a fight with the U.S. and keep us out of the war in Europe, then they will give Mexico the land they lost. Write this down. Give Mexico the land they lost during the Mexican-American War, which is California, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Oklahoma. And, and you're like, no, wait just a minute. How are they going to fulfill that promise? Right? I don't know. I don't know how they thought they were going to fulfill that promise, but it doesn't matter because it didn't happen. Mexico never declares war on us. But that's what they did. They claimed they were going to help them get land back. And last but not least, number 15, what event finally drew the U.S. into the war? Sinking of the Lusitania is really going to be the big push. Again, American lives have been lost, and that usually is the number one reason for us to get involved in a war. American lives have been lost. The sinking of the Lusitania, sister ship to the Titanic. Okay. All right, so again, I apologize. I know we had to start a few minutes late, thanks to my computer deciding it was going to get kicked off the internet. All right, what do we got? Questions, comments, concerns, something that I went too fast over and you missed? Make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat.
Can you go back over 7?
Number 7. What were the initial countries involved in World War I? Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, Russia, France, and Great Britain. You should have 6.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anybody else missed one, either on the IDs and SQ sheet or on the packet?
Miss Walker,
Yes.
can you go over the first one we did on the packet?
Let's see. Yeah, all right. We skipped number 1. We started at number 2. It just says, why did the alliance between Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary alarm Russian leaders? And there's 2 reasons, really. 1, they're next door neighbors. And 2 is because they're cutting off Russia's access to they're cutting off Russia's access to the Allies.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. What else we got?
What was number 1 for the SQs?
Let me go back to it. All right, number 1. All right, so number 1 was listing out the 2 sides. You had to have Central Powers, which is Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Ottoman Empire. And then you had to have allies, which is Russia, France, Great Britain. You should have 3 and 3. And if you need to go back and reference information on those Google Slides, they are in Google Classroom under Chapter 16 stuff. And you can actually reference that to go back and do the definitions for the IDs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Sussex Pledge is on there talking about Germany issuing a warning before they fire on ships. Zimmerman Telegram, Germans note to Mexico to get involved with the U.S. So yeah, most of those are all on your Google Slides if you'll just go back and reference what we've looked at today. Okay, all right, so I don't want to go any further than that today. I know we pushed through a lot in a very short amount of time, but again, if you chose not to take the 14-15 unit test, you got to do that today, so I'm going to let you go. Yeah, I did put the short version because we had other stuff to do, but don't forget that test. I don't really want to have to wake up in the morning and see emails because you waited till the last minute and got locked out. So I got a question for you guys. Do you do this to all your teachers? Like black yourselves out and like you don't do video, you don't talk, you just make it really weird and awkward for your other teachers? Or is that just me? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, Gage is honest. He said yes.
This is my only class.
Oh, so you just want to do that to me? Okay.
I'm making smoothie bowls, so I didn't want to be loud or distracting while taking notes and stuff. But I'm making breakfast, so that's why I had my camera off. I didn't want to be distracting.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know that I would, really care just to, see other people. It's kind of nice. Okay. All right. Well, y'all keep making it awkward for me. All right. If you need me, stay on. If not, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Oh, I know I hopped on like a couple minutes late. Did I miss anything at the very beginning?
At the beginning, all I did was go over Hello, sunshine.
Hello.
I just went over a couple of reminders. We talked about the answer to the bell ringer.
Okay. So
I
then
talked-
I was here for that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think you missed anything that I probably didn't repeat several times before I got started.
Okay. Cool. Well, have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Miss Lucas,
I just
I did get your
hello.
email, so I need to make sure that I
Okay.
go back, and look. Do you remember, without me having to run through everything, do you remember what it was that you
I sent you I was apologizing because I've sent you 3 emails. The first email that I sent you had all of them in there. Let me go look and see if I can find the one I sent you. I sent you 3, but I didn't want you to think that I was like mad or anything.
No,
I just
it's,
wanted to double check.
yeah, I would really rather you guys do that because it gets lost in my email, and sometimes if you don't remind me, it'll, like I said, if I'm trying to juggle 65 students, there's something of somebody's that I'll miss or look over or whatever. I just
Yeah.
need to make sure that
I'm trying to
everything.
hang on. It's loading. Let's see. I sent to you. Where's it? Okay. The chapter 4 packet. The
You mean 14?
probably, yeah. Yeah, 14.
Okay.
The immigration activity
Okay.
and the immigration packet
Okay.
and the chapter 12 unit packet.
Okay.
And then that quiz. What quiz was it? The quiz that I missed. I don't know which one it was. It wasn't not the one
So
before
it
it. I
would be 14 on imperialism or 13 on immigration.
hang on, let me go to Power School. That would probably be easiest. And then I turned in my video project as well. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay. Yes, I did see the video project. It's the 13. It's chapter 13 on immigration. All right. 13 quiz. Okay. All right. Okay. So I got it written down. I made my list because that's one thing I got to work on between now and Friday is making sure that I get all those grades updated. Okay. All right. If you get Power School alerts, you'll probably see all that stuff start going in this afternoon because I've got another Zoom to get to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will work on that today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. Did you have any other questions or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.